you have any suggestions on like condiments or dips that would be good with a smoked salmon out of the jar? No. It's sacrilegious.
I know, it is. Hi everyone, Steve here with Pride of Bristol Bay. Today we're going to show you how to can smoked salmon. If you've missed last month's episode of smoking wild Alaskan sockeye salmon, please check the link below. Alright, so today we're going to be taking the wild Alaskan sockeye salmon that we've smoked and putting it into half-pint jars. We'll be putting a slice of jalapeno pepper in the bottom of each jar, and then we will be putting it in the pressure cooker to finish the canning process. So some important things to note is, first you want to make sure you're starting with clean jars. So we put them in our dishwasher on the sanitize mode. You can also wash them with hot soapy water and dry them. So you want to then inspect the rings, make sure. All right, so now that we've covered the jars and the lids and the rings, we're going to move to preparing the smoked salmon on the cutting board to the right size to go in the jars, adding the jalapenos in first, and prepping them for the canning process. All right, so first I'll take my jalapenos and just kind of slice them into 1/4-inch chunks, depending how much spice you like in your canned smoked salmon. And then once you have those cut, take your jars and then just drop 1 ring in each jar. We've got 10 pounds of smoked salmon here today, so I'm going through a few jars. All right, so we got the first dozen jars ready to go, and now we're going to take the salmon and cut it the size to fit in each jar. When you're cutting the salmon, you want that to be just below this bottom ring. So what I typically do is, when I'm smoking salmon for the canning process, I leave it in fillet length strips, so that way I can make a mark on my board, cut them to the right size, and I don't get a bunch of odd pieces. So I'll just take one of my strips, kind of drop it in, you can mark it, come over here on your cutting board, usually just take a little piece of tape, lay it there as my indicator, and then you can just slice through that. Just like that. Then once those are cut, you just drop them in there. And now you want to pack your jars as tight as you can get them, because as the cooking process happens, they kind of shrink a little bit. So again, you just want to kind of work them in there, get them nice and tight. All right, so they're basically all below that rim or just to the rim. And then we'll take our olive oil. I like to use organic extra virgin olive oil. And most recipes call for a tablespoon. I like to fill mine halfway. What it does is it'll, with the juice that's in the salmon, along with the olive oil, it'll bring it up close to the top of the fish while it's going through the canning process. And that keeps the salmon quite a bit more moist. You'll have a little bit more olive oil taste there, but it allows the sockeye to stay moist, which out of all the 5 salmon species, sockeye is the least moist, where it'll have the driest tendencies. So just one way to add a little bit extra moisture to your canned smoked salmon. All right, so That's pretty much it. So we'll continue to do that with the jars. All right, so now we've just finished the process of cutting the salmon, placing it in the jars. There's a jalapeno pepper in the bottom of each jar. Adds a little spice if you like a little spice. So now we're going to take our extra virgin olive oil and we're going to put roughly about half of the jar full of olive oil. And then when the cooking process happens, the moisture in the sockeye will come out and fill up the rest. When they're done, they typically have liquid right to the top. And that's what I like, to keep the moisture in the sockeye, as the sockeye is one of the drier of the salmon species, and so it just adds a little more moisture to it. All right, so now that the olive oil is in the jars, I just take and quick wipe the top of every lid off to make sure that we get a good clean seal. And if you're neat with putting them in there, you don't have much work to do, but just make sure that you have a good seal. Okay, now that they're all clean, you just take your lids, place your lids on. All right, so with the lids on, you take your screw caps and put them on, and that's what it looks like at that point. You just hand tighten them. All right, so we're just using a basic canner here today, pressure cooker. You got a pressure gauge, regulator, and then the safety valve. You want to make sure that that's in good working order. And then, so lid comes off, cans will go in, stack them in there tightly, and then we'll put just enough water to cover the tops of the cans. Once that's done, put the lid on, and then we will turn it on. We'll cook, get the temperature up to a point that the pressure, if you can see this, the pressure comes up to 10 pounds. And what we want to do is we want to have it cooking at 10 pounds of pressure, between 10 and 12 pounds of pressure for 120 minutes. I've got about 3 inches of water in here, so we'll just stack them in. And then if we need to add some water, once they're all in, we'll do that just to get them covered. The other thing is as it cooks and the steam goes off, you lose water out of here. So that's why you definitely don't ever want to run out of water. You want to make sure you have enough, but you also don't want to have too much. You want to take up the extra space so the jars don't bump around and fall over. All right, so we've got about an inch of water over top of the jars. And so we'll just put the lid on. Properly tighten that on. Got the stove on. Got a good flame under there, but we'll just be watching that gauge till it comes up to 10 pounds. And then when it holds between 10 and 12, we'll pressure cook it for an hour and 20 minutes. So it's no fast process, but everything is sure good when you're done. All right, so our 110 minutes of pressure cooking at 10 pounds, 10 to 12 pound range is up. So we're gonna take the lid off. Steam's just kind of still bubbling in there a little bit. Take the lid off, and then we'll start pulling the jars out and setting them out. You can also just let it in here till it cools completely and then pull them out, but we're gonna get ready and take them out now. Here we go. All right, so we just got done smoking a 10-pound box of wild sockeye fillets from Bristol Bay, and then canned them. There's about 15 jars here, and this will last us anywhere from 4 to 6 months for my family. All right, so once the cans have set for a little while, you'll want to check them all to make sure that they sealed. You can see on this one it's sealed, it's sucked down. If they haven't sealed yet, you'll have a little bit of springy action to them once they seal, and you'll also hear them go pop. So this one's sealed. We're going to open it up and have a sample.